What's up, guys? It's Sam. I wanted to go through the full Darkest Dungeon release patch notes now that there's been a few minor hot fixes that have come out. It gives me a chance to go through with you what's new if you haven't played the game in quite a while. This will help you get caught up. If you haven't played it for 2-3 months, I'd recommend go back and look at some of my last patch note videos to get you a little caught up. So we're going to go ahead and get into it. So a few of the basics, they've added achievements. There's 64 total achievements in the game now. Looking at a couple of the things for lore, there's now journal pages that are in the game. They've added a new game called NG+. So after you finish the game in NG+, you have 91 weeks and you're allotted 13 hero deaths to finish that version of the game, which I think is pretty cool. I think that's pretty challenging too, to do it in 91 weeks. That's pretty quick. Looking at some of the other things is certain classes now get provisions, which I won't go through in the video just for time's sake, but you can check it out in the patch notes. So, for example, the Crusader now, when you embark on a mission with him, will bring 1 holy water, which I think was a cool change. That's definitely a positive. One big change that helps you acquire loot much quicker, in my opinion, and increases the value of bringing Houndmaster, Grave Robber, and other classes that can scout, is the addition of secret rooms. So when you critically scout, you trigger a secret room, which I can't show you here, but basically there's a star that shows up on your map, and you backtrack. Usually you have to backtrack to get to it, and then you press W when you get to that area on your map, and you'll walk into a secret room. You need to have a key in order to open it, and it looks like the loot falls off the collector's loot table. So you get trinkets like these. I'll show them to you real quick. The heads here that you see here, these are some of the things you can get with the loot table. You also can get gems that are worth 2,500 gold. But I think that's a really cool change. I definitely think that's one of the best changes that's come out for this patch. Probably the thing that I'm the most excited about is the huge amount of trinket passes that they did. So they adjusted a lot of the trinkets throughout the whole game. They've changed a lot of content. It's way too much for me to go into. But one little secret, since you're watching the video, these may be the best trinket in the game. If not, they're close. Just a secret. They're also uncommon and dirt cheap. They're a must-buy. Oh, you guys are always asking me what's a must-buy on the Nomad or Wagon. This is one of them. It's going to get nerfed. So, just FYI, I didn't tell you that. It's definitely going to get nerfed. It's really, really strong for what it is. Pound for pound, best trinket in the game. And debatable that it's flat out the best trinket in the game. Works really well with a bounty hunter if you want to up their crit. Can make them a monster. Anyway, moving on. One really huge change, which will alter a lot of play styles that I used to get a lot of flack from, is how long I wait to camp in dungeons with my play style. And that's what I've been recommending to you guys. You hold out really as long as you can, especially for boss fights. But a lot of people would camp early and say, I'm going to do it just to get the buffs. Well, one, I thought that was kind of an exploit. Two, you could easily incur stress and other things, so the devs switched it so that when you go to camp and you look at some of these camping skills, notice how it only says 4 combats after the buff there. That's a huge change in the game, and it makes it much, much more difficult in certain dungeons. So it's not as impactful in the medium dungeons when you have 15, 16 rooms, but in long dungeons where it's 20 rooms, it can make a difference. So, like I've always told you before, wait as long as you can to camp for the most part. Camp when you need it, but wait as long as you can. So I wanted to go class by class into what's happened with some of the classes and how they've been impacted. So I'm not going to go into full detail, but I will give you if I think they got better or worse based off of what's happened. So we'll start with the Abomination. He took a damage nerf, so that was pretty substantial for him. It needed to happen, but definitely puts him in line with probably, you know, second or third best damage in the game now after the Leper's recent patch, which we'll get into. The Arbalest got a slight buff, but with the changes made recently to Blind Fire, which was yesterday, it's even more of a buff for her if Blind Fire is not going to target corpses. Now, I haven't tested that yet, but if that is true, Blind Fire gets a huge buff, which means just in general, if you look at her ability with Blind Fire, her self buff of speed makes her even better than what she is. That's real strong for her. The Bounty Hunter got a very slight buff. The Crusader got a big nerf, and I'll kind of walk through this because I get a lot of questions about this. So the Crusader used to be able to be to do Holy Lance in the second slot, which allowed somebody to basically leapfrog in the second and third slot. You no longer can do that. It's still strong, but that's a pretty big nerf for them. You can also, like, really another reason for the nerf was the healing isn't as good as what it once was, so slight nerf there. But overall, the Crusader, I think the Crusader and the Hellion took the two biggest nerfs, which I'll get into the Hellion in a second. Grave Robber, I didn't think took enough to consider it either a nerf or a buff. The Hellion, in my opinion, took the biggest nerf, and that's from If It Bleeds. So If It Bleeds is still, even with the nerf, one of the best combat skills in the game. The amount of damage you could do with If It Bleeds and then still proc a bleed made the Hellion almost a must-bring on boss fights. This puts her more in line to above average, but not the best DPS in the game. That actually is the Leper pound for pound right now, but because the Leper can't hit third and fourth row like the Hellion was just OP. So she took a big nerf to take a back seat. She's still very strong in the game. Don't get me wrong. She's one of the best classes in the game still. But she did take a big nerf. Highwayman, nah. Right now I feel he's probably the least valuable hero in the game. Let me know how you guys are playing the Highwayman, but in general I feel he's just not good currently. The Houndmaster did take a slight nerf with the dog treats, which lowers its value against bosses. So the dog treats were nerfed, but now you bring two. So what that does is some people consider it a buff because it allows you to move, allows you to use the dog treats for a longer stretch throughout a dungeon. But I would stack dog treats and really focus on using them on boss fights. And the stronger it was, the better he was on boss fights. But he's still really strong. He's probably the best hero in the game right now, in my opinion. If you look at Jester, the Battle Ballad got buffed, which the Jester's currently pretty strong. Probably in the top half, if not the top third of the hero classes in the game. So that was good for him. The Man-at-Arms got nerfed based off of the crit rate loss that he took. Man-at-Arms still very strong, especially if you're running in the 4th slot with the right party. The Occultist got a buff for his heal. Plague Doctor, nothing really happening with the Plague Doctor. Still strong in the ruins. I still have it as in the bottom half of the heroes in the game, but still strong in the ruins. Vestal got a slight buff with late game consistency in the healing. And the Leper yesterday received a pretty big buff to damage. And that's probably from lack of use. If we look at a Leper here, one of the main drawbacks to the Leper is that they can't hit third row. And if they get moved, you're kind of screwed. So, because they move so slowly in a lot of the dungeons, they're going to get moved unless you pop move resist on them. And they only being able to hit first and second row, if there's corpses, it makes the Leper even less valuable. So the devs buffed the damage to try and offset that. So Leper's still okay. I have him in the bottom half, but he's still okay. It's his inability to hit third and fourth row and to not hit enough rows makes him susceptible unless you're bringing a party that's not going to have a lot of corpses. So consider that when you're bringing the Leper. Overall, those are all the changes that I really wanted to speak to. with the new release coming out. That's kind of the highlights and the Cliffs Notes for you guys. So hopefully that helped. If there's more hot fixes, and when the merchant comes out, I'll be doing another video. But I waited about a week to 2 weeks so I could include as many hot fixes as I could that I felt were really valuable before I did the video. So anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Let me know what you think in the comments below if you have any feedback, and I really appreciate all the views. See ya.